Hello. Hello. I still sound crazy. Sorry. Got a little bit of a cold or something happening. Sorry about that. Um, yeah, okay, we're gonna go ahead and jump in because we have a lot, and I do mean a lot of news to cover today. Have some updates on some things we've already talked about, so should be interesting. We'll see how it is. Just to introduce myself, I am Sophie of standwithsophie.com. I have survival guides. We do live trainings. I have printable action cards in multiple languages, gear lists, all kind of things to help us get through Trump's Fourth Reich together. Um, Before I jump into the headlines from the future, because I was lucky enough to escape to, hi David, I was lucky enough to escape the US, and so since I live in the UK and I'm 5 hours ahead of America, I am here to deliver the news from the future. One of the things that I've been trying to share, it seems to be able to go out everywhere except for TikTok. And so if you're on TikTok and you're watching, um, I encourage you to Google a company called smartelections.us. You can just go to that website. They're a company who just filed a pretty major lawsuit. It's starting to get some news coverage, but from Newsweek and Economic Times and stuff, but it's pretty bombshell. And I cannot, every time I say it on live, I get warnings or I get banned altogether. I've tried to post a video about it. That video was removed and I received a strike on my account just for trying to talk about this. And it cited that I was talking about things that were violent or talking about violent organizations, which is insane to me. So, of course, I've appealed that. I've yet to hear back. But it's just very telling that I'm trying to share this one story that's a news story. I didn't make it up, and yet it's something that I cannot seem to get out to at least the TikTok audience. It's if you're on YouTube or Twitch or Kick or whatever, you can see it on my previous lives and posts and stuff. But again, Google smartelections.us for the actual lawsuit that they filed, and they have a press release about what happened there. And very interesting stuff, very exciting stuff. So we'll leave it at that. Let's jump into some of the news of the day. I see I have a guest request. Let's see who that is. I'm sorry, I don't really know who you are, but I'll pull you up before we jump into headlines. Hi, Ingmar. I see you're still connecting. Hi, Ingmar. How you doing? What's on your mind today?
Quite well. How about yourself, Sophie?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, thanks. Did something percolate up to the top you wanted to discuss right away, or just weighing in with some hellos?
Was initially weighing in with some hellos. So a little bit prior to this, I was having a conversation about art in our current and art with the perspective of the current administration in mind. And I was hoping to see if maybe you'd wanted to have a discussion.
Well, tell me, I guess the hypothesis or the thesis that you took away with from that conversation, or that you're kind of feeling really stoked about. Like, what's top of mind for you in regards to art in this administration?
In its most recent iteration, what's been on my mind as of late has been both the release, rollout, and the reaction from, I guess, the general music consensus in regards to Kanye West's most
Reaction
recent
from,
album
I
Cook.
guess, the general music
So
consensus in regards to
I would
Kanye
say
West's most recent
it's
album,
split
Cook.
in between a certain
I
amount
thought
of
it was,
fascism
how do I
and at the
say
same
this?
time kind of like
It's split
prudery
in
by
between a
some
certain
police
amount
to
of
respect the,
fascism,
Mm,
yet at the
mm-hmm.
same time, kind
to a
of like
certain extent, it
croonery
feels the way
by
it
someone
runs
that I used
parallel
to
to the current
respect, you know?
administration.
And to a certain extent, I kind of feel as though it runs parallel to the current administration. And I felt as though there were like a lot of, say, through lines in between both fascism as well as this as a rhetorical piece of art.
Interesting. It's hard for me to even engage with a lunatic's ideologies or their artwork, because it's not coming from a place of actual, we're used to that, of a place of actual genius, of actual deep thought and practice. It's coming from him not taking his medication essentially. So
Sure.
yeah, it's very difficult for me to actually take it serious enough to even have a commentary on it. You know what I mean?
No, I
It,
understand.
so I appreciate that it's causing, this level of discussion, but I just don't see the point in even engaging with it or giving it credence. Some of the things that I am interested in when it comes to art in this administration are the fact that this man literally went to see Les Mis last night.
Yeah, I heard that. That's
that
so cognitive dissonant orientated.
right, like who do
As
you identify with in this play, man? Like it's crazy to me.
did you see how many times the Fox News reporter asked him that? Who do you associate yourself more often with, Jean Valjean or whomever the other character is? I'm not acquainted with the play, but I am of the understanding that it has something to do with, I guess, like class division during
Yeah, it's
France in
about
the apocalypal
it's basically
time.
about students. It's about students who were protesting.
Jesus
The
Christ.
ahead of the French Revolution, which is nuts to me, right? So,
The-
and then you have
Some jokes
basically
just
the
write
main character.
themselves.
I mean, right? Like, so, but you have this guy named Jean Valjean, and he stole a loaf of bread, and basically was arrested for it. And his overseer essentially was this man named Yver, and so Jean Valjean completes his prison sentence, prison sentence, and is let go. And Yver is like, once a criminal, always a criminal. I'm going to keep my eye on you, basically.
Oh boy.
And so
Okay.
what ends up happening is, no, just like yeah. So he ends up going to this like church, Jean Valjean does, and he's just starving, he's hungry, and he steals the silverware and the candelabra, and the preacher catches him, and he's like, oh, my son, here, take the plates as well, take the
Okay.
cup. And Jean Valjean is so moved by this pastor's ability to forgive his indiscretion and his ability to have kindness and humanity and humility for him, that he turns his whole life around. And he ends up becoming this really, really prominent businessman. And I think he becomes like the mayor of this town. And this is the town where we have the setting of the revolution that's starting to brew. And so then you have this whole other storyline of him basically adopting this little girl who was a prostitute's daughter. It's just a phenomenal story. But long story short, Yver cannot fathom that this man has changed. And so once he learns that the former criminal that he, was responsible for in the prison, he's like, I
Yeah.
know you. When he sees him as a mayor, he's like, I know who you are, and I know you're slimy and skeezy, and I know something's happening here. And so he just like needles him and needles him and needles him and needles him, and to the point where they they have a clash about it. I don't want to spoil it for you, but if you can go watch it on Broadway or in a theater,
I'll find a way. I'll find a way.
it is the most compelling thing you'll ever see in your life. The way they do the stage, it looks like you're watching a CGI on a movie. It is so cool. And so so the whole story is about a person who is a criminal, who turns over a new leaf, becomes a prominent businessman, and then a politician. And so you would think, okay, maybe that's what Donald Trump sees in himself with this guy. He's a businessman and he feels very persecuted by the state, and he's a criminal. So
So
I
this is
don't.
Trump adjacent. This would be considered Trump core by most standards. Then, even with the joke, whether or not he's like an exemplar of said character traits, right?
Right, right. So, I mean, I'm just thinking in his head that might be what he's saying. But then you have Ye Ver, who is basically on the opposition. I think he's like
Yeah.
a double agent. He is the state. He is who the students are fighting against, essentially. And so and then of course he cannot let go of the fact that once a criminal, always a criminal. He sees uh lesser people as animals, essentially. So like the way he treats the prostitutes, the way he treats the students, the way he treats people who were criminals, he is very akin to how Trump seems to see the world. And so again, not to go on a whole thing about it, I fucking love Les Mis. I've seen it
Yeah.
in New York. I've seen it in London. My sweet husband bought us tickets just last year. And I've read the unabridged book by Victor Hugo. I mean, I fucking love Les Mis. And so the fact that this man
It's just very comedic orientated. Like it's almost like the writing couldn't get any better if he were to host an event and Trump were to answer in the manner that he did. Now that we're on the topic, though, what other forms or mediums of art would you go as far as to say would be considered Trump core or Trump adjacent?
Well, what's really sad is I know I have these really inflammatory comparison pictures up here, but what's really sad to me is when I think about who Trump could have been, who H Man could have been if they'd been allowed to pursue
Sure.
their art. I don't know if we know. We all know he was a painter and he was kind of a shitty painter and he didn't do really well with that.
Yeah.
But H Man Trump, excuse me, used to play the flute when he was a kid. He's always had this deep and abiding love of
Wait, are you
music.
serious?
Yes,
I
and
didn't know that.
that. Yeah, but his father absolutely dissuaded him from pursuing music as a career, or pursuing music, period. And I think he also really, hounded into him how like unmasculine or unmanly it is. His dad was a very, very domineering,
Yeah.
really just an awful parent, awful guy. Same as H Man, So not only do we have these comparisons with their love of art, their inability to pursue their art, but they both had really domineering fathers, really subservient, doormat mothers. It's so crazy that people are like, how can you compare these two? You can compare them in every single fucking facet of their existence, from their birth to how they operated their respective governments. And so, yeah, it's just wild to me how art is such an interesting, thing to talk about when it comes to, again, just the similarities we're seeing and how history is playing out again.
Well, yes, and not to devolve the conversation, but like a little bit earlier, the discussion I was having with the gentleman prior, it had revolved around a specific track off of the album called Hitler, Ye, and Jesus. Now,
Like, I hate to say it because TikTok
sure.
will warn you, just say H Man or point
Okay,
or
yeah, my apologies. I'm sorry about that, truly, but I understand what you're saying. But specifically, I'm not of the idea that these guys are comparable on certain perspectives, but they are comparable in a very iconoclastic setting and almost in like a tragic type setting as well. And especially provided that all of these guys could have just had, I guess, art as a medium for release, while instead choosing to promote fascism. I myself am of the idea that the most recent album is like a mixture of both like sad, pathetic, what do you call this, like divorcee type like energy slash like I guess like fascist with not like a single other thing in mind type ordeal. And I feel as though these do run say like John Lennon, and say like Jesus, Hitler, you know. And by this, I'm talking about the amount of weight that their iconoclastic nature happens to inhibit, I guess, broader society and the music listeners. Um, I don't know. I guess I'm losing where I'm going with this, but I just think it's funny that you had brought up, and I didn't know this about Trump also possibly, I mean, not possibly, being a flute player and
Yeah. He was a
devolving into
scout.
this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Just hectic, really.
I get what you're saying, and I can see the connections. And again, I can see that if you just had this conversation, that why it would be top of mind for you, why this connection would be very vivid for you. But again, it's just very difficult for me to even entertain anything that Kanye West is producing now or at this point. I just and honestly, it's sad because I just don't care. I really don't care. I don't care. Like whatever he has to say, I don't give a fuck. I just don't. You mentioned John Lennon. Like John Lennon was a piece of shit. Like I feel like that's the thing. We especially because Kanye was a genius. He was so iconoclastic. He was absolutely, ahead of his time. And so it is sad to see the fall of these people's respectability and sanity, but I think it's helpful for us to see that even celebrities are just human beings. Even celebrities can have, brain chemistry imbalances. Even celebrities are just fucking people, even if they don't see that themselves. I doubt Ye sees himself as a normal human being, but he is. He's just a person. So even with John Lennon was a horrible father, horrible husband, horrible friend, just generally a horrible person. And we see this, the iconic Beatles and all they did for music and art, and we see that, and the fact that he survived an assassination attempt before he was even, finally taken out. Like he dealt with so much in his life, and I feel like the celebrity of John Lennon, of Kanye West, of Donald Trump allows them to, not only live rent free in people's heads, but to be able to be given that license to, enact a fascist regime or put out an album that is obviously very incendiary. So, I mean, again, I would just say to you, like, just don't even worry about it. There's so many other amazing artists. Listen to there was a really really good podcast with Andre 3000 recently. He was on oh gosh, what is the podcast? I'll have to think about.
We got 50% off deal for today, for our first live. 50% off, for $22.90, cheaper than a Starbucks cup. Caffeine free, sugar free, artificial sweetener free, artificial color free. It's all natural tea. And if you have any question about the tea, comment it. Sugar. Yeah. Yes, we are Ethiopians. We are Ethiopians. Yeah. If any of you are here in Ethiopia, hello, hi, and everyone other than Ethiopian guys, hello, welcome to our live. Hello. Hello, welcome. Hello, welcome to our live. Ask us anything you want. Ask us any question you want to ask.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that. I got kicked from TikTok, so I am going to um just go back to sharing the news that you can use from the future. It said that I was it said that I was Here, I'll read it to you. It says, you've been suspended from going live as a live creator or guest for hate speech and hateful behaviors. Probably because I called John Lennon a piece of shit. I don't know. Anywho. Okay. All right, let me turn this off. Okay. So, today in the Fourth Reich, we have no real updates on Adriana Smith. Suffice it to say that she has now been an incubator for her son, who is now about 24 weeks, even though she is brain dead. This is day 114 that she's being forced to be kept, or her body to be kept alive for that purpose and that purpose only, which is nuts, even though her family doesn't want this. Now that they're thrust into the situation, they have expressed that they're very happy to welcome him no matter his state, and that they're going to love him no matter what, which is so beautiful. But they shouldn't have been forced to be put in this situation, and who knows the costs that are going to be involved, which they're having to foot the bill on. So it's all around a horrible situation. And then we have some new news. I know I always lift up Jessica Valenti and her newsletter, Abortion Every Day, her Substack. Make sure you go and check that out. It is absolutely fabulous. And her latest post is all about, it's titled 3 Years After Dobbs, They're Coming for Patients. And it's all about how in Texas, a man spiked his 6-week pregnant girlfriend's drink with abortion medication. And he didn't get arrested. He didn't get in trouble for harming her, for harming his girlfriend. He didn't get in trouble for giving her an illicit substance or drugging her or whatever. He got in trouble and is being charged with capital murder for the abortion, for harming the embryo. So it's really telling, and it's really not a good sign for our future and how the abolishment essentially of Roe v. Wade is going to play out for everyone. I mean, not that this guy deserves any kind of respect for what he did, but the fact that the poor woman who had to deal with this, and in yet another way that women's bodies are being not only taken advantage of, but just being thought very flippantly about, it's just very telling, very, very telling. So that's something to keep an eye on. Again, follow Jessica Valenti. She is extraordinary. I'm going to see if my appeal was approved. So my live's been restored. So let me jump back on there because that's just ridiculous. And sorry, friends. I know I'm kind of back and forth. All right. So, hi, TikTok. I'm back on TikTok now, but I'm glad we already talked about the first two headlines that I wanted to cover today, because I probably would have got kicked off for mentioning them there anyway. So just to keep going. We talked a little bit yesterday about the Southern Baptist Convention that occurred and how they basically voted to endorse a ban on same-sex marriage, or reversing the Supreme Court decision about same-sex marriage. Well, now there's reporting coming out that they not only wanted to target same-sex marriage, but that they want to eradicate pornography, or corn, sports betting, and willful childlessness. So that should really scare you. That should really scare you all. because I know we just talked about Roe versus Wade and some of the ramifications that we're seeing from that. Hi again. Sorry I got kicked a minute ago. Um, hi baby. Sorry. But yeah, so now the fact that they're literally trying to endorse bills that would punish people for willful childlessness, it should be horrifying because it's going to expand on the forced birth movement. It's going to expand on fetal personhood, which is just devastating. In already, we're seeing the repercussions of that. Welcome back, guys. Sorry I got kicked a minute ago. But the fact that now they're going to come for contraception, now you could face who knows what kind of criminality for just not wanting to have kids. What if you just don't want to have kids right now? I mean, the fact that suddenly you're going to be targeted for willful childlessness is crazy work. So keep an eye on this because, you know, anything goes in this administration. We'll see how it plays out. As a for update of what's going on in LA, there have been really swift crackdowns with the curfew in particular. Technically, we're on the 6th day of protesting, but it's really calmed down quite a bit. It says businesses are now just assessing damage. Um, the real issue is just the fact that the ICE raids are still upending life in LA. From schools, kids are worried about going to schools in case they come home and their parents aren't there. To again, the Home Depot parking lots. So it's really, really horrible. Um, yeah. So just we'll keep an eye on that. But the situation was never out of control. But now apparently because of the spread of these ICE protests, we now have where, and let me switch my screen so you can see if you're on YouTube or whatever. We now have where even Texas is now trying to deploy their National Guard because of the anti-ICE protests that have matriculated there. And so, yeah, just it's crazy how it's kind of spreading, I guess. I had a really interesting comment on a post that I made yesterday, and somebody said, well, if they're American, why are they flying the Mexican flag? And I didn't even want to entertain it. But then I saw this really great Politico article that was talking about why Los Angeles protesters fly the Mexican flag. And it basically says that SoCal demonstrators are continuing the long tradition of hoisting the flag during anti-immigrant sentiment. First of all, for me, like LA, California belonged to Mexico for far longer than it belonged to the United States. So that's kind of the reason for me. And then secondarily, the fact that, they're Mexican Americans. They're Mexican Americans. So I don't see any problem with it. It says, let's see, the Confederate banner of the LA riots is what they're calling the Mexican flag. I'm trying to see what are some other reasons. When you attack the undocumented community, when you attack the immigrant community, there is a sense that, I mean, it's a reality. The majority of the folks are Mexican. There you go. It's really about saying we're American, Mexican American, and we're not ashamed of being Mexican. And they shouldn't be. So check out this Politico article on the Mexican flag waving if you're interested. I'm seeing a lot of people, even Destiny, who I very much respect, really, really admonish people for flying the Mexican flag. And I think we're getting into these weird semantics, these weird, nitpicky, correcting of how we best protest. When really, I think, however, you're getting your message out that this is a horrifying way to treat people, to attack them in their places of business, or where they're trying to find work, or when they're going to their immigration meetings, for instance, things like that. That's pretty abysmal. That's not going after criminals. That's not going after the dregs of society. um or if that's how you view it, then that's a problem. So anywho, Monster says, I wonder why it's not racist, it's being punished for committing a crime. I'm sorry. I'm not. Are you saying like as far as getting people out of the country is? First of all, the whole idea of people being illegals or criminals, y'all realize it's not like a federal felony. Like it's at best a misdemeanor and a civic one at that. It's not. It's like literally on the level of jaywalking as far as actual like um the way it's coded, I suppose, and the legalese of it all. But I mean, these aren't people, if you come in and you commit a crime that's like a crime, that's one thing, but that's not who they're going after. So it's just, suffice it to say, I don't want to go off into the whole way I feel about it because I'm here just to report the news from the future. Thanks for tapping. I appreciate that. Way to make our citizenship cheap. Our citizenship is not cheap. I have an immigrant husband, so I absolutely it is not cheap and it's not easy. It's not easy at all. Let's see. You have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. How our immigration system is not cheap. Do you want to live in the United States or Mexico? I don't want to live in either. That's why I moved. I'd rather live in Mexico than the United States. But luckily, I had a third option that I took a few years ago. And so since I live in the UK, again, I'm 5 hours ahead of America. So I'm here just to report the news from the future. Thanks, Spiels. They said good move. Appreciate it. All right. So in other news, there's a opinion piece from the LA Times that says commentary. Newsom's democracy is under assault speech could turn the tables on Trump. No, it won't. It won't. I don't know. We still act like Cory Booker's 25-hour filibuster speech or, Al Green censuring, because he stood up and left. And I don't know why we think these little tiny little acts of intangible, protest, peaceful protest measures will have any single effect at all on fascism. Like, how do you so I'm just gonna skip right past that because it's nice that Newsom is fighting, in the best ways that he can, but it shit is fucked, y'all. So, moving on, another Politico article talks about how the Fulbright board members accusing Trump of politicizing the program announced their resignation. So literally all 12 members of the board were like, we're out. We can't do it. So what the Fulbright scholarships are, Fulbright Foreign Scholarship Program is basically it seeks the absolute best of the best students and offers them scholarships to come and work in key areas that are needed. And so some of these key areas where they have been overrided in who the board has selected to receive these scholarships include things like biology, engineering, medical sciences, music, and history. And so since Trump and the administration have basically said, we're not gonna let people come and study in these fields, especially from foreign places, the board was like, no, we're not gonna be told what to do. We'd rather just go ahead and resign. And so they did. And so it's sad because they award about 8,000 scholarships every year. And let me read this to you as well. 44 Fulbright alumni have served as heads of state or government, according to the State Department, who manages the Fulbright scholarship, while 62 Fulbright alumni from 15 countries have been awarded the Nobel Prize. 90 Fulbright alumni have received Pulitzers. So this is an extraordinary program that again looks for the best of the best students from all over the world to bring them to America and to study in America and to advance our biology, engineering, medical sciences studies. And so It's absolutely insane. America First said Jake Tapper at CNN said Fox News has been right about everything. Well, why were they sued about lying? I think a lie is wrong, right? We would equate a lie with being wrong. And so why did they have to pay what, $134 billion because they're liars? Okay. All right, sure. Let's see. And Jake Tapper has a book to sell, so I'm good on listening to him for now. But anyway, Fulbright scholarship, something to keep an eye on. I don't know how they're gonna move forward with it. I guess they're just gonna push it along the lines of US aid, where we're just going to not worry about the rest of the world, just continuing on our isolationist path. Another thing that has happened is Robert F. Kennedy has, well, yesterday I reported how he fired the entire CDC panel. Well, he's replaced them now, and one of the replacements is, I think several of the replacements are actually anti-vax. So again, we're just going on down the line of inanity. It's all right. And then we talked before I got kicked. We talked about how Trump went to see Les Mis last night at the Kennedy Center, which he is now the head of the board on, because he didn't like how they were doing their programming. And so I had a whole we talked about that for quite a while, so I won't revisit that. Want to bet what? Spiel says every single media outlet has been sued, just like CNN had to pay kids for attacking them on live TV. Um, Sued for that amount and have won. It's one thing to be sued, it's another thing to win. Why did Democrats put 4 million illegals on our social security? That's impossible. That's impossible. While illegal immigrants, undocumented citizens, absolutely use fake social security numbers all the time, that they do that in order to pay into the system. It is virtually impossible for them to actually receive social security benefits. So, let's not ma'am or sir, it's fine, I don't give a shit. Ever since Republicans freed us from slavery, Democrats, you say us. You're not black, I know that for a fact. So let's stop pretending. Here's the thing. You can keep, please, 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 please keep commenting. Make sure you're tapping, following, liking, all those things. Your comments aren't showing up anymore, just FYI, or at least these last couple aren't. That's not me, that's TikTok, so just watch your mouth. I don't care what you say because you're helping me with internet points, so thank you. But if you feel the need to counter everything I'm saying when I'm literally just reading the news to you, then I absolutely feel like this is not the place for you. And I welcome you to keep scrolling and keep swiping. I don't really care what a Russian bot has to say, but thanks for the engagement. I do appreciate that, but I don't need it. If you want to go, you're welcome to leave. So moving on, as far as news, let's move into some more international news, which again, I need to watch my mouth on because we're going to talk a little bit about his reel. So I know I reported a few days ago how the US voted against demanding a ceasefire from Israel, but now the UN has voted to actually go ahead and go forth with the demand of an immediate Gaza ceasefire, countering only the US and Israel, which should tell you something. So the only people against calling for a ceasefire are the people actually murdering so many Palestinians, and us, and America. So very sad, very telling. We also reported how the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was forced to actually stop giving aid last week for a while because they're literally targeting aid sites where people are going to get food and supplies. They're literally targeting them. 27 people were, unalived in one day just from that. And then now that they've restarted their efforts, we have a report that just yesterday, 5 actual workers um, from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation were unalived during an attack. And so it's just devastating what's happening over there. Um, it was beautiful to see Greta Thunberg make that attempt to try to break the blockade, the naval blockade. Unfortunately, if you missed that reporting, she was in the flotilla was captured by Israel, and she has since been deported back. The other 12 people who were on the boat, we still don't know what's going on with them. So just because the pale woman was granted a deportation and was sent on a plane back home or wherever, we still need to keep our eyes on what's going on. Hi D. Hi D. Thank you so much for the heart me. I appreciate that. Um, but yeah, we still have to keep our eyes on these other 12 people, some who are of Palestinian descent, and make sure that either they get back home safely as well, or that they're treated properly, or just figure out what's going on with them. So that story's not over. Let's make sure we're keeping our eyes on that. So in more international news, the US has moved some diplomats out of the Middle East as tensions in Iran are rising. This is very, very recent news, I think, as of just yesterday evening. And so I know I've been saying it. I just have this feeling something's coming. We had Pearl Harbor before we were kind of forced into World War II. We had 9/11 before we were kind of forced into all that, Iraq, Middle Eastern conflict before. Um, I just feel like, manufactured or otherwise, something's about to happen to try and justify why we are going to pursue fighting in other countries. And so I absolutely hope that you all will please go to, first of all, go to standwithsophie.com. Please join my squad. We have secure comms. I have just survival guides. I'm doing a set it and forget it survival, so join my event for TikTok this Saturday, where we stay ready so we don't have to get ready in the event that something pops off. Okay, so just, if you have your go bag, if you have your phone secured, if you have your passports in place, if you have some extra cash on hand, if you have your medication stockpiled, if we can just stay ready so we don't have to get ready. I have tools and all kinds of printable cards and things for you here at standwithsophie.com. Please join my squad, please, because just seeing the news every day and how things are progressing little by little by little, it's very, very telling. So let's just keep our eyes open. But yeah, moving on. So speaking of international news, we reported how some of the representatives of the US and China have gotten together about a new trade deal. It looks like Trump has approved it from his side. They were just waiting for the presidents, Xi and Trump, to approve it. And so Trump's good. So I think we'll have to, wait and get an update on what Xi says. But just let's keep an eye on that. That's a good movement. So then that means that we will have, once this is secured, we will have one and some change, 1.5. We had the EU, we'll have 1.5-ish trade deals. It's not 90 in 90 days, but at least, 1.5. Okay. All right. We're getting there. And then again, I'm not even gonna say it, but please, for people on YouTube, for people on Kick, Twitch, Instagram, whatever, if you can see the article that I have up, please Google it, because literally every time I talk about it, this is the press release. This is the actual lawsuit. Okay, Google it. I can't even talk about it. This is the Economic Times reporting on it. All right, this is Newsweek's reporting on this. I'm not even going to read the title of this article, but please look up a website called smartelections.us. Okay, if you're on TikTok, because you can't see this, but some real exciting stuff is going down, and I really want y'all to take a look at this, because I get dinged every time I say anything on lives. I posted just a general news report about it post, which has since been banned, taken down, and I received a strike on my account for putting it up. So it's very telling to me that there's something they do not want you to see. I think they might be conflating what I'm reporting with um like old 2020 kind of stuff that was going on from a more negative perspective. I don't know what I can say without getting a ding. But just Google or go to the website smartelections.us and you'll see what I'm talking about. So that's it for the news of the day. So just again, my shameless plugs. Go to standwithsophie.com because I live in the UK, not only can I continue to give you the news from the future like this, but I can really provide, I think, the survival guides that we need, the principal action cards that we need, help and directions for what to do to have a safe protest, what to do to if you're detained, what to do if you're traveling and you want to get back. I have all this information ready at hand, and I don't have to worry about being disappeared for reporting this stuff because I don't live there. So take advantage of my superpower. Let me be your shield and your sword. And again, go to standwithsophie.com, register. I really would appreciate your financial support, especially. This is my day job. This is what I do. And so I'm here to try to help, us get through Trump's America together, get through the Fourth Reich together. If you're on YouTube or wherever else, you can see that this is the site. I have basically many ways you can support, even if you just follow. So if you're on right now, thanks for tapping. Oh, I'm at 1.1K. Thank you. Keep tapping. Make sure you follow, share. Just because again, I'm at least giving some news from the future every day. But there's so much more that I have as far as ways to just help you set it and forget it when it comes to your survival and your prepping and whatnot. So that's that. If you register for even just for free, oh, I see you have some visitors. Thanks so much already for going to the site. That's wonderful. But here's the survival guide that you'll get even if you just register for free. And it just talks about the mindset that you need to be in. It talks about things you want to stock up on when it comes to a gear list or reading material. It gives you some really actionable ways to hack your phone so that you have phrase shortcuts set up, emergency SOS is set up. You pull your maps offline, things like that. So check that out. And that's me. So again, standwithsophie.com. But that's it for the news from the future. So I will do a quick recap just so I can do a quick clip for the gram. So once again, I am Sophie of standwithsophie.com, where I have survival guides. We do live trainings. We have printable action cards, secure comms, literally everything we need to survive in Trump's America and survive the Fourth Reich together. And so one of the things I have benefited from is that I've moved away from the United States. I live in the UK. And so since I'm 5 hours into America's future, I'm able to share some news from the future. So let's jump into it as a quick recap. So Adriana Smith is now on day 114 of being a human incubator, despite the fact that she is brain dead. We also have some new reporting that a gentleman in Texas was charged with capital murder for spiking his 6 weeks pregnant girlfriend's drink with abortion or AB pills or drugs. So he wasn't charged for harming his girlfriend. He was charged with uh the committing a AB, which is insane. We talked about how Southern Baptists have voted to endorse a bill that would revoke same-sex marriage, but we failed to mention that it also targets corn, sports betting, and willful childlessness. The LA Times reports that the curfew is bringing swift crackdowns, but it's also helping to calm the protests. They're on day 6 and things are uh I guess de-escalating enough that businesses are now just assessing damage. And let's switch it to the news. So furthermore, Gavin Newsom made a speech that was talking about how democracy is under assault, and they're saying that it could turn the tables on Trump. It won't. But the ICE protests have spread. We saw a massive protest in New York, in all kind of other cities. There are protests planned for June 14th. The No Kings protests. So make sure you look that up. If you're not black, if you're black, stay your ass at home, please. But in Texas, the ICE protests have made the governor there feel the need to deploy the National Guard there, which is the proper way to do it. So yeah, go Texas. All right. The Fulbright Foreign Scholarship Program, the board, has unilaterally just resigned. They said that they're really upset with Trump politicizing the program. Robert F. Kennedy has replaced the U.S. CDC panel members that he fired just yesterday, I believe. Has replaced them with people including anti-vax proponents. Excuse me, a little under the weather. Also, last night, Donald Trump had a night on the town when he went to the Kennedy Center, which he took over. Even though you would think he has a bigger job to do being president, I guess not. He has time to take over the Kennedy Center, and he went to see Les Mis there last night, which is crazy work. And in international news, despite the U.S. opposing it, the UN is going to go ahead with a vote to demand the immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Also in Gaza, the humanitarian foundation that's backed by the U.S. and Israel has just unalived 5 of its workers. So the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was attacked again just yesterday, and this comes just a week after they had to cease. Agreed, Martin. They had to cease their humanitarian aid because they kept getting people unalived, including like 27 people in one day. So the fact that they're even targeting the places where they're going to get aid is absolutely insane to me. And that's it. We also have some other news on the international front to be aware of. The U.S. has just moved some diplomats out of the Middle East as tensions with Iran rise. Hey, Wireless, thank you. Oh man, that might be something to look out for. Just the fact that tensions with Iran are rising is what they're saying, to the degree that they've actually moved diplomats out. So again, who knows what that'll have to do with like the financial markets. That's definitely the Wireless's concern, or with oil barrels, or who knows what else. So keep an eye out on that. But otherwise, that's it. That's the news for the day. Wireless. is amazing. I know I say it every time she pops on, but please follow her. She is extraordinary. And we are planning something. We hope for the 4th of July that we think will really blow your mind. So follow her, follow me if you're not following me. And thanks for the taps. Thanks for the love. Thanks for the internet engagement points. I really appreciate it, even if you weren't saying anything of substance. It's very helpful. So thank you for that. DT says the deal with China is done. Yep, already mentioned that. And the thing is, it says Trump says rare earths deal is done with China, but I'm still waiting to hear what Xi says. So we'll see. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be fine, but you know how you say you want to wait till the chickens have hatched, I guess. So that's good. As far as other news that you might have missed, um, the Southern Baptists. I know we talked about how they're targeting same-sex marriage, but they are also targeting corn, corn, sports betting, and willful childlessness. So do with that what you will. Let's see. Everything that I was trying to report in regards to that smartelections.us lawsuit gets me like ding 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 ding. So just keep an eye on that, wireless, and anybody interested in the financial repercussions. In fact, the first outlet to report this was the Economic Times. So definitely keep an eye on that. That's it as far as I think news that might be of interest to somebody in the financial sector. But yeah, I'll be back tomorrow morning with our Friday edition of Today in the Fourth Reich. So thanks again for joining, my friends. I really appreciate it. Baby girl's up. So yeah, we gotta go. You ready? All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Alrighty, friends on YouTube and whatnot. See you tomorrow.